So yesterday I made a start on the floating deck, and with the help of a good friend who's a neighbour and he's in his 70s, Des, we set about doing this. And my brother turned up halfway through to give me his technical skills. Never helped us because he was too dressed up, so we forgave him for that. But he had a little bit of an input as well. But we've got to this stage and I absolutely love it. It nearly killed me and Des because yesterday we was fighting the cold weather, the wind, the hail, the rain, everything that could have hit us yesterday hit us. And it's so annoying because today it's like this. Absolutely beautiful. You can't believe it. So I'll talk a bit more about it, but before we go on to that, I forgot to explain about this rough looking bit of grass. Now, if you remember, this lawn turf I dug out from up there, that section there, and part of it came from off a pile that I'd recently taken up. And originally this path was quite slim, which was fine for how it was at that point. But because we're making these big changes around here now, I had to make this path a lot more usable, user-friendly, because don't forget I'm going to be opening this garden at some point throughout the year, and hopefully more than once. I have already got a party booked in for June, so let's see how that goes. So that's a little explanation as to that. Now, at the moment, as I've said before, I can't do this section just yet because we need to finish the floating deck. And if I get carried away starting this, it'll just never get finished. I have lots of half-finished projects if I'm not careful. So I've got myself into the habit of trying, and I do use that word sparingly, trying to finish projects. So let's explain what we did. We put 3 posts in, these chunky ones. Now, I believe it's larch, but I can't remember because originally these were going onto a pergola, onto a brick pillar and a pergola in a previous house that we lived in, and we never achieved that. So I brought it all with me, and as you know, I did put up the pergola, but I used telegraph poles as its legs and kept these because I knew one day they would come in, and they have come in. Now the chunky, the 6 inches, these things, massive 6-inch posts, but they're absolutely cracking. So then we put the frame around. Now we had a little bit of jiggery pokery to get these lined up and in line, and when it's wet and cold and the wind's blowing, it's not the easiest task to undertake. But eventually me and Des fought it, and we finally got them into line, sorted them out, and then I started with all this. So this is the decking itself, and we've just simply used rough sawn 3x2 to create all this. We've got what you call noggins in the middle there. That's to strengthen it. Didn't really need those, but I like to overdo things. Now I had 1 more post left, so what I did with it was I decided that we was going to put them on there because we are going to go for the handrail. As I said, Sophie, my disabled daughter, may not go on it, but if she does, she'll feel a lot more secure. So eventually, once the actual deck itself is on, once the scaffold boards are actually onto this, I will then set about doing it. And I know roughly how I'm going to do it, and it should look okay. So we dug them in I always dig things in about 18 inches. So that's 18 inches in, and then it's at least 6 foot this post out of the ground. So it's ideal. And although it looks high here, don't forget we've got a lot of planting now that's around it. Tall plants, tall perennials, grasses, etc., etc. And there will be more added as spring pops in. Now I'm gonna resist putting any more in just yet because supposedly this weather is coming, this rough weather, and I'd rather grow them on in pots still. There's still the new plants in my greenhouse. I'll keep them there. We'll not bother putting those in just yet. We'll put them in later. I just don't know when, probably April, mid-April. But yeah, so so we did that. Put them in. I formed what did I form? I formed what I call a ring beam really around it for the strength. And again, we've used 4x2s. And then at the back, we've put what they call joist holders. So those metal things are joist holders, and they're heavy duty ones. So they do the job really, really well and hold it. Now that, when you stand on it, is solid. Absolutely solid. And what we're going to do eventually, well, next week hopefully, this is the scaffold board that's going to be used, and it is going to dress the side as well. Very hard to do this on your own, as you know. So we're going to dress it with a scaffold board that's going to run all the way around it once the scaffold board on top comes on. So the scaffold board on top will run over about 4 inches and create what we call a shadow. Well, a shadow step really. Something like that. So it's going to end up looking like that at each end. So obviously we'll cut them to suit and we'll put those on. Pretty much like the deck and the boardwalk. Same stuff, same method. So we'll walk around to the other side, show you what it looks like from there. In fact, let's look at it from here because it looks great from here. It's just going to look so nice. I know it is. Like I say, we put a lot of time into this yesterday, and I've been out this morning because I've had to, all the plants that I dug up ready to put this in and moved, I then had to go back in and dig up again because we trampled them because it was cold weather and you're just not thinking when it's cold weather, and we trampled on some of them and squashed them and compacted them. So I dug them back up. We'll just have a look at the wildlife pond while we're coming past. There's Donald. I moved him over because he kept setting my wildlife camera off. I am having visitors. I'm having lots of wild birds at the moment. We'll show you some of those as time goes on. Now here it is from this side. So that's this, well, this here is south, so that's south facing. So in the morning we're going to get an absolutely lovely little deck to sit on. We're going to be able to come out the French doors. Don't forget, this was all based on having these French doors in here. And that's what we've done. We've got the French doors in. We'll open those. We'll step out onto here, onto this deck. It'd be lovely. Now, one of the things that I've fought against forever, and it was doing the same yesterday, is the wind. And the wind whips around that. Well, it's kind of north over there. And some of the easterlies absolutely belt into us. So I'm toying at the moment with putting some form of archway across this little section here with a gate in it to prevent all that wind hitting us on the deck, or it's just going to become a waste. We probably won't end up using it if we're not careful. So what I'm talking about is from that wall, it'll come across, it'll drop down, it'll have a gate in it or something like that, or it could simply be half of a fence, a large lap fence or something, just to block that wind. But we will make it look interesting, as you know. It won't just be an archway, it'll be something a little bit more than an arch. But it will help, because if you get an area that's causing problems when you sit at it, you're going to stop using it. So you've got to address the problems. And I know about these problems, so this is what I'm doing: assessing, addressing problems, changing things, moving things, and having, even if I've got an idea and I think it'll work, I still sometimes change it. Now that, you've got to agree, that looks absolutely superb. Those larch posts just make it, they're brilliant, I love them. I can't remember what they cost me, my brother was asking me yesterday, but I fear they weren't cheap at the time. I think there must have been something like £50 a post, maybe even 60. So they were quite expensive at the time, and I had them purpose cut at a different size for the idea I had before, but that's changed, so this is now up. As I said, I was going to put them onto brick pillars at the other place, but decided we weren't staying there, so they came with me because I didn't want to waste them because they're beautiful. Now I sit where I'm sitting at the moment, I sit here in the spring and summer quite a lot because I'm not a big sun fan, to be honest with you. So it's a bit daft that I'm building somewhere to sit in what gets a real sunny morning, but in the mornings it tends to be a little bit cooler, and I tend to come here and sit and get the morning sun, and in summer it hits us, and the sun will hit that all through the summer. Now in winter the shadow comes across from the house and it will cover part of that, but as time goes on it's fine. The sun hits it. It's bizarre really, because it's the shape of the roof and the pitch of the roof that makes the house not only look small, which it's not, it's quite big inside, but also cast shadows in places that I wasn't expecting it. But they're fine. So by the summertime, because of the pitch of the roof, once that sun's up in the sky in the summertime, it lets lots of sun hit these borders, and they look great. So this is it. I'm stood at the level of the actual deck at the moment. There we are. There's my foot. And then we shall walk out onto it, and I'll just be careful here. I will go out onto it because it's very, very safe. Let's hope it doesn't drop to bits while I'm walking across. But we get these other views then. So you can see the skull across the road there. Nobody's there. Obviously it's Sunday. And then we get all these fresh views of what I'm trying to create at the moment. And there are new plants coming in. So that's looking really, really good. So I've called it the floating deck. As you know, I like to give everything a name. Bike riders, we get lots of these coming through here. They love it. It's a bit of a walking village. People love coming here. I love living here. So it's looking great because I've now, again, I've taken it on. I've taken the process on, and I've created more to make it work as a design and to make it more of an interesting journey. Now, remember, we've got trees while we're here. We've got trees that are going to grow up, and these will become more apparent the bigger they get. And hopefully I've chosen the right ones. I don't choose big, massive trees like oaks that's going to make it to 60 foot. I always choose appropriate trees, and I have done in this case. And don't forget, a lot of them are rootstock, so they won't exceed anything. So the deck works absolutely beautifully from the pergola, from the cloister pergola that I'm in at the moment. And for those that haven't seen my videos before, instead of using wire to grow my roses up, because don't forget, this cloister pergola has got plants growing all over it at the moment. They're all babies, they're not covering it yet, but eventually this will become quite a shaded area. It's very sunny at the moment, and some of the plants will be moved. We will move them around and put them into more appropriate places, but for now I'm just set dressing it, making it look nice, and then we'll move them as and when they need to be moved. So the deck looks absolutely superb with it. So within the cloister pergola, it's just looking right. It's this because of its juxtaposition, I guess it makes it work. It's a bit weird. It's a bit serendipity in it, really. So it really works, that. And wood is a natural product that I love using, and it's so easy for people to do. Now, again, I'll remind you that I'm not a landscaper. I'm not a builder. I'm an artist and a painter and a creative gardener. I used to trade as the creative gardener, actually, and that's what I used to do. So I did do little things like this, little jobs like this for people, but I'm not a professional. I don't work full-time in that profession. But I love it. My time is spent coming up with new ideas, building new things, and as I said in a previous video, I don't just build things and put things together. I've got some nice plants in it. I've got good plant knowledge, and I know what I like. I don't like everything that other people like, but you know, each to their own. It makes it a colourful world. I like what I like. I like form. I like shape, etc. I'm not bothered about big blousy flowers. They do nothing for me. They're fleeting. This is what I like. It works for me, and it's working for me at the moment. As I said, we've got this area to work on. Got one or two ideas for it at the moment, but they're not finalised. I'll sit up at that window at the French doors there. We've got a little stool I sit at, and I look out here for hours on end at night, or while the light still permits me to, and I start working things out. But yeah, the floating deck, there it is. So that's part one of the floating deck. I'm quite pleased with it. Big thanks to Des, because I know he'll be watching this. And my brother John, who gave me his technical skills, but no labour. But anyway, we'll forgive him for that, because he was in his best clothes when he turned up. I don't know if that was deliberate, probably. Who knows? But we've planted it up again. Like I said, I've had to lift some plants again that I'd put in already. Lifted them, taken them out the concrete soil that I'd, because we trod on it, it's like concrete. You've really got to break that soil back up. That's what I've done. I did have sticks in so that we wouldn't stand on them, but we still stood on them because we had a lot of work to do and a lot of jiffling around, and it did cause problems. I should really have just taken everything out and it wouldn't have caused a problem. Now, this piece of wood in front at the moment is just there for the hell of it, to be honest. It's just to keep that border tucked in at the minute till I get to working on this area. And this area will change. It will change. As I've said, I intend to introduce a path into this and make this a nice area. And I'll either go for some sort of a seating area, or I'll go for some sort of a statue, or well, it probably won't be a statue, you know me. It'll be something weird and wacky to attract you into this. So we're going to try and make the interest by making these plants do the work. So once these calamagrostis get tall, as you know, this will be enclosed, this area. And once all the stuff gets growing up around the deck itself, it's going to add interest again. And I have put things in there for the butterflies. So Eupatorium Gateway, or Euchaeum, I think it's called now. That one is in there. I've got several of those in there. I've got Elianthus Cape Nook Star. I've got the Grass Memory, which I've now put into 2 clumps. So hopefully that'll look great from within the house. And then I shall be putting other smelly type plants that will attract bees, butterflies. The Eupatoriums always attract butterflies. They will not stop on that once they start coming in, and I've got loads of it. All these sticks down here are Eupatorium that will make it to 6 foot, so it'll look really interesting. It's lovely scented, and it's good for wildlife. So I've not got a lot else to say really, apart from that's part 1, and part 2 hopefully will be next week. I'm hoping to be able to pick some more scaffold boards up tomorrow. I've got to work out how many I need, and then we shall set about next week doing that. And if I get that done on time, I will also have an attempt at doing the handrail. I've got an idea how I'm going to do it at the moment, and it should work. And then it should look absolutely beautiful. So keep checking in, see what I've done. Okay, thanks for watching. Talk to you later. Ta-ra.